You know, corporate social responsibility is something which I think has become a bit of a fad these days. And I think my hope is that, you know, it is turned out to be more entrenched in our society, in our business environment, but I think beyond that across society. And maybe you can allow me first to define what CSR is. I would broadly define it as the proactive and deliberate inclusion of public interest into corporate decision making and voluntarily disengaging in practices that have negative impact for the public. So CSR will then focus on three things: people, planet, and profits. If you want to just put that in a nutshell. Someone once said, an organization that only cares about profit and making money from society is just like a parasite, giving back nothing in return. But on the other hand, if you are a company that only wants to do good, regardless of the bottom line, well, this becomes a charity and it's not going to be sustainable for too long. I think what's important is that a balance needs to be struck between these two extremes. CSR is about finding and striving for that balance. The goals of CSR are not and should not be countered with commercial interests, but can complement each other. There are many eminent examples, and I think immediately of the Prius that Toyota has come up with. I think some of you may be driving that. I think this is a very good example of a car that has captured the imagination of the world. Now, as an aside, as I use this example, I realized that I think this car was also involved in this sudden acceleration problems that gave Toyota some grief. And you may have read this story about Steve Wozniak. When he read about that, he owned a Prius. He decided to take out on the California highway and tested the car. And what he found was, I think above 140 miles an hour, the car just took on a life of its own and it just kept accelerating. And I think that if there's ever natural justice, this is it. All right? Because, this is a green car. All right? And the engineers, the experts will tell you that the optimal driving speed for a car is about 50, 60 miles an hour. Now, if you are naughty enough to drive it to 140 miles an hour, you deserve to have this experience. But anyway, Toyota is one example, but I think we can also think of other companies like Hewlett-Packard. We think about Johnson & Johnson, Wells Fargo, Baxter, and many others. And all these have been featured in the Newsweek Top 500 Green Companies. But what is very interesting is that not only are they Newsweek's Top 500 Green Companies, they're also Fortune 500 companies, which suggests that you can actually put CSR together with your profits. In my talk today, I'd like to begin with my own company, SGX, and share about its CSR voyage. Now, I want to have a disclaimer. I'm not going to say that SGX is a paragon of CSR virtue. I think we still have a lot to learn, but I thought that it might be useful to share the experience that we went through as an illustration of the kind of journey and the work that it takes to get to be a company that is really conscious about corporate social responsibility. Then the second thing I want to do is talk about why should organizations, companies care about CSR? Why should it be important to them? And finally, I want to address this whole issue of what NBS can do to promote CSR. Okay, let me talk about SGX first. Singapore Exchange is the entity in Singapore that is a combination of our stock and our derivatives exchange. It is a regulator. It is an operator of the marketplace. At the same time, it is also a listed company. So that means that we have to play a very balanced and multifaceted role. Our stakeholders are not just our shareholders or employees. Our stakeholders will include our regulators, include our members, which are institutions and broking members. It also includes our customers, it includes our vendors, and so on. As we embark on this CSR journey, I remember about 4 years back, and as my CEO and I we were just brainstorming about what are we doing about CSR. I remember one time, about 4 years ago, I was in London, sitting in a car, looked out the window, I think it was Kensington High Street, and I saw that there was this shop. It's like a supermarket. It's the Whole Foods market. And they have a very interesting slogan, and it says, it's not something we do, it's everything we do. And I think that that should encapsulate the way we should respond to CSR. It shouldn't be just something that we do, it should be everything we do. And I must say that for the longest time, the reason why as a company we have not trumpeted our so-called CSR credentials is because we didn't feel that it is something that permeated the organization. Yeah, sure, we do something for charity, but that is not enough to call ourselves a CSR responsible company. So for us, as I said, our journey is an evolving one. One of the first things we started with is actually strengthening our corporate governance. And I think obviously we have to do that. We are an exchange. We expect our listed companies to have high standards. We also need to show the way. What we did was we reinforced our self-regulatory organizational governance and also enhanced our disclosure standards. And I think that the market has recognized that. In 2008, we were given the award as the best managed board in Singapore. And then last year, and again this year, in fact just last week, we were placed third in the Governance and Transparency Index Award. This was given by the Center, the Corporate Governance and Financial Reporting Center. You may not be familiar with it because it comes from a small university in Cambridge. Now, at the same time, our former CEO, Seck Wai Kwong, began to emphasize that we also need to be an organization with a heart, and that began around about 2004. We created various programs catering to staff's development and welfare, and one of the examples is our counseling service. What we did was we actually fitted out 2 counseling rooms where you could access without being seen by people. And 3 times a week, we actually have counselors on call. They'll be sitting in a room, and we have a system where people can sign up so that our staff can actually have recourse to a counselor, an external counselor. So there are 3 different ones of them on 3 different days of the week. And what we find is that the service is actually very well used by staff. Originally, we thought that this will help them in terms of coping with stress in the job. But it's interesting that over time what we find is that this is used mostly by staff to actually help them to cope with their own personal issues, especially at home. But we felt that this was something that was important for them, and it actually helps in terms of their total well-being. Now, then we moved beyond the staff and looking at ourselves, and we started rallying the financial community with something we call the Bull Run. Now we call it the Bull Charge. And this is an iconic event that we have. We close a good part of the city on a Friday evening, and we have a 2.8-kilometer run. And I'm very pleased to tell you that since we started this in 2004, we have raised a total of $14 million for quite a number of charities. Now, the Bull Charge is not just a fundraising effort for Singapore. It also allows us to give back to the community beyond Singapore through our overseas outreach program. We are happy that our listed companies from overseas have also responded strongly to support this initiative. Just like our international listing platform, in fact we have 300 companies listed on SGX. This CSR has actually allowed us the opportunity to extend beyond our borders and deepen our relationship with our own stakeholders. More recently, SGX embarked on another CSR initiative to promote corporate governance in the charity sector. We became a founding member or sponsor of something called the Shared Services Charity. Now, this is an organization we helped to set up with the intention of helping smaller charitable organizations. Many of them are small, and so they cannot afford to have audit services or even accounting services or HR services. So we thought that it would be useful to have some organization which can actually centralize these resources and support them. And we have been a founding member, and I think that we are very glad that we're able to enlist the support of many in the financial services sector and then also the accounting firms to help us to start off this. Last year was really the year when we finally felt that we can say that CSR has permeated through the organization. And that was when we decided that we will put it into an annual report. We have a CSR report in our annual report. And within the annual report, we actually have a chart which I'm going to show you. I'm not going to go into details here, but it sort of finally summarizes for us all the different things that we do in an organization, so that we can say that yes, indeed, we are a CSR conscious company, and that throughout the company, from the chairman all the way down to the office assistant, we are aware of all these things, we are contributing to this, we all play a part in this. I won't elaborate more. This CSR report is contained in an annual report, and to be green, I suggest that you go to our website and you can pull it out anytime you like.